In all my years, and perhaps that's short compared to many of you, I don't know, I've never seen such a story pertaining to a presidential candidate. RFK Jr. says a worm ate part of his brain and then died inside his head. Wow. Hey, look, man, I'm not here to rag on the guy. It's just a shocking story for a major presidential candidate right now in this insane 2024 race. The big news outside of RFK Jr.'s worm in his brain is Republicans are starting to get worried about RFK Jr. Recently, he came out against gender-affirming care, Democrats call it, though in the past he said he didn't know enough about it and he wouldn't want to ban it outright. These moves are signaling to Republicans he may actually take away enough votes from Donald Trump, but it's not definitive. I can't say we can look at the polls and know for sure. Some are arguing, NBC News, I think it's NBC News, RFK Jr. actually hurts Trump more. And then you look at the polls and it's just not definitive. There are some polls, of the polls that include RFK Jr., some of them say Biden is winning, some of them say Trump is winning. That doesn't tell us who is being harmed by this. But I don't think the Republican Party nor Trump supporters care. They are going at this full steam. RFK Jr. is bad. And I got to be honest. I think RFK Jr. is good on a lot of things. I like the fact that despite being an old man, he lifts, he is in shape much more than both Trump and Biden. Policy-wise, I don't see him being a good candidate. I can like the anti-establishment energy. I just don't know that I see it. I mean, this is a guy that in the past has been very much for gun control. So I'm not here to endorse RFK Jr. or anything like that. I think it's plainly obvious. I don't need to endorse Donald Trump either. He's our candidate right now. If you believe in freedom, if you're concerned about foreign war, if you're concerned about our economy, the border, jobs, etc., there's no choice. It's Trump. RFK Jr. has not done anything to prove otherwise. So I don't know what to tell you. For those that are big fans of RFK Jr., by all means, you're allowed to be. But Trump just seems to make the most sense right now. With all of his shortcomings, with his working with Mike Johnson, with the rumor that he may choose Rubio, it doesn't matter. A rock and a hard place, I suppose. Only this time now, there's a rock, a hard place, and a hard rock place. Actually, that would sound pretty fun. But RFK Jr. is not a viable option, in my opinion, though some people may be swayed by it. Here's the story from The Independent. Anti-vaccine activist, which is a lie, I might add. Let's just pause there for a minute and actually talk about what RFK Jr. literally said. He said he likes vaccines. He's concerned about the COVID vaccine. There's a big difference. Turned independent presidential candidate, RFK Jr., has revealed that a worm ate part of his brain and then died in his head. According to the New York Times, Mr. Kennedy made the bizarre admission during a deposition held in part as part of his 2012 divorce proceeding. He reportedly said he'd begun to experience cognitive problems and both short and long-term memory loss in 2010, not long after his uncle, the late Massachusetts Senator Edward Kennedy, died from the effects of brain cancer. The Times said the record of his 2012 deposition showed Mr. Kennedy had initially feared he too had a brain tumor, but he received a second opinion from a doctor in New York who told him the cause of his problems. And a dark spot on his brain scans was a dead parasite. Mr. Kennedy testified the doctor had told him the dark spot on his scans was caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. He also said that in 2012 deposition that he has suffered from mercury poisoning that caused neurological issues. Quote, I have cognitive problems clearly. I have short-term memory loss, and I have longer-term memory loss that affects me. RFK Jr., the son of late New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy, told The Times in an interview that the poisoning was caused by eating too much fish. That's a lot of fish to be eaten, my friend. I loved tuna fish sandwiches. I ate them all the time. The admission raises questions about RFK Jr.'s health. At a time when the 70-year-old environmental lawyer and long-shot presidential hopeful has used his relative youth, oh, I absolutely love this, his relative youth compared to his major party rivals, President Joe Biden and Trump, to argue that he is healthier and fitter than both to run the country. But the anti-vaccine activist, pause, fact check, the anti-experimental vaccine activist and conspiracy theorist has had other health problems, including a history of drug addiction, which is openly discussed in the past. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Donald Trump, Joe Biden, RFK Jr. have all done hard drugs. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Yeah, Trump claims to have never done any drugs or anything like that. Maybe the reason why Biden is kind of out of it, he looks like a partier. You know what I mean? Like Joe Biden was a partier. RFK Jr. definitely a partier. These guys, they like to party. They're partiers. That's what I call them. Donald Trump claims to have never even had a glass of alcohol. I don't know if that's still true, but that's the rumor I heard. Perhaps it's not correct. But yeah, Trump is a germaphobe and straight edge and all of that stuff. So maybe. Okay, my friends. You know, I do feel bad. I don't want to drag someone because they suffered a medical issue like a parasite. I mean, it's horrifying, right? But I'm going to be honest with y'all. You have your choices now before you. You have Joe Biden. He's going to be 81, the oldest man to ever seek the presidency. And I believe both Trump and Biden would be the oldest presidents ever if they get elected in November. But you've got Joe Biden with steel plates or whatever in his brain from suffering, I think it was aneurysm or something like that. A man who struggles to speak and is on significant exponential cognitive decline, who certainly would not finish out his term. You have Donald Trump, who, while being, I believe he's 78, actually, we can pull up right here. Look, we've got Trump, 77 years old, and would also be one of the oldest, if not the oldest president. I do believe Trump would finish out his term. Despite Trump's weight, he's certainly much healthier than Joe Biden, but still, nonetheless, he is a septuagenarian. Is that the right one? And will be an octogenarian throughout this term. Then you have RFK Jr., a man who the news is reporting suffered from a parasite eating a portion of his brain. I'm not here to rag on Joe Biden because he's an old guy. I'm here to rag on him because he's an old guy who can't accept that he no longer has the capabilities to do the job. Now, Donald Trump, I like the guy, the best president of our lifetimes. I don't think that's fair to say it's just bias as to why I like Donald Trump. I don't think that's fair. Trump gave us the Abraham Accords. I know many libertarians. I had great discussions with Dave Smith. I'll put it this way. Shout out to Dave Smith, because having debates with him on these issues, it's fun and it's funny. And we really try to get to the heart of these matters. He stands firmly that the Abraham Accords opened the door to the Israel-Hamas war we see today and the escalation with Iran. I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't think the threat of violent factions justifies not seeking peace agreements. The issue is Joe Biden, not Donald Trump's peace agreements. But I love to have that debate. And I don't know what the ultimate conclusion would be. I mean, we're going to go on forever with it. But I look at Donald Trump and I say, I wish we had a younger guy. I like RFK Jr. I do. I don't like some of his policy. I know he's pro-gun control. He's a little wishy-washy in some areas. But anti-mandate and lockdown, those are huge. And there are a lot of libertarian individuals who are like, I will not support Donald Trump because he's locked down Donnie. He's the guy who started the lockdowns. My response, of course, is like, Trump said 2 weeks to slow the spread. The states ran away with it. I'm not going to blame Trump. He was the president. You got the 9th and 10th Amendment over here. He's not going to go and intervene in certain states. So we need to talk about which party do we want to win and maintain control, and what do we get? I don't accept this, the lesser of two evils, oh, they're all bad argument. No, the question is, where do you win? Now, I will accept that this two-party system, mostly garbage. But through the primary process, you really do get a wide range of candidates. I don't see it as being the biggest problem in the world. So you get a lot of people that are like, it's a two-party system that's corrupt and we need a third party. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. But the Republican Party does have libertarian candidates. They just don't win. There's MAGA libertarian types. Thomas Massey's fantastic. I disagree with him on a lot of things, and have considerably disagree with him on some things. But I think he's great because he is such he's a smart guy. His Klux capacitor, chicken coop, is brilliant. And I respect, I believe he does have integrity. I respect his libertarian streak. But we can disagree and recognize that, you know, the best candidate for the job may not be perfect for you. I look at the two-party system like, the Democrats put forward a field of candidates from various areas that attempt to fundraise, and that includes progressive, leftists, moderate, centrist, etc. The primary breaks this down to who is the main candidate for the Democratic Party. I don't see a problem with that. I see a problem with super delegates. I see a problem with rigging the game. The Republican side, comparable. Donald Trump wasn't supposed to win the primary, but he did. He ran as a Republican. That was where he was going to go. It made sense. It worked. I want to see the Libertarian Party included in these things. I think it's great to have a third party, but I don't think it's the apocalypse because we have a two-party system when you have a primary process, except for the fact the Democrat primary process is trash. That's the problem. I would prefer it if we did not have a two-party system. I'm just saying it's not the apocalypse. So here we stand now. The question being, who is your choice, ladies and gentlemen? With RFK Jr. stepping up and saying mandates are bad and Trump was wrong and he doesn't like how the vaccine was pushed out on people and the mandates. The question then becomes, is that enough to earn your vote, Trump supporter? Well, for Trump's core base, the answer is of course not. RFK Jr. is for gun control, or he was, and he's flip-flopping. I don't see many people reasonably deciding that RFK Jr. makes more sense than Trump because just the vaccine. However, I do see many people who are not necessarily Republicans considering a vote for RFK Jr. on those issues. Namely, people who are libertarian and typically don't vote libertarian may vote for RFK Jr. and make a statement. What's going to be fascinating is that going into the Libertarian Party National Convention, RFK Jr. and Trump will be speaking there. That's going to be wild. RFK Jr. wants to debate Trump. Trump doesn't want to do it. We'll see. I'm splitting the issue. I wonder, and I ask you guys, should Donald Trump debate RFK Jr.? First argument, the pro. This basically marginalizes Joe Biden, and it makes the political debate, the political conversation, RFK versus Trump, sidelining Joe Biden. But then there's the con and the negative. This only risks splitting Trump's potential voters into RFK Jr. And the Democrats are going to vote for Joe Biden anyway. So for that reason, perhaps Trump should not debate RFK Jr. Well, NBC News Decision Desk says RFK Jr. candidacy hurts Trump more than Biden, according to one of their new polls. The latest national NBC News poll finds the third-party vote, RF Kennedy Jr., cutting deeper into Trump support than President Joe Biden's. Though the movement the other candidate create is within the poll's margin of error. So who knows? But I'll tell you this. Everyone's trying to figure out what the new shadow campaign is. What are Democrats going to do that's going to spike the election for Trump again? In 2016, Donald Trump won the argument. Ever so slightly. I think it was, what did they say, like 40, was it 80, 44,000 votes, something like that? But it gave Trump a decisive electoral college lead. In 2020, once again, Donald Trump won the argument. Only this time he lost the election. Why? Well, Democrats using universal mail-in voting realized, or I should say they realized and then used universal mail-in voting. What's the point of arguing? The argument is pointless. The narrative is pointless. All we got to do is get as many pieces of paper with people's names on them as possible. That was their focus. Republicans were living in the past, and they said, we are going to win the argument. And congratulations, you did. Donald Trump's approval rating was much higher than where Joe Biden's is now. Joe Biden wasn't even in the press. He wasn't paying attention. He was calling a lid. All the markers were indicating a positive for Trump. Now, the polling was in favor of Biden, but there was a margin of error and polling biases. But then Biden won. In the wee hours of the morning when universal mail-in votes came in. Now, many people on the Trump side seem to think that the spike in mail-in votes is indicative of cheating. The question is, what kind of cheating and what do you mean by cheating? Because I'll break it down for you. There is cheating the spirit, but abiding by the rules. Let me tell you a funny story. I watched this Instagram video. I'm just swiping through. And it was speed skating, speed ice skating or whatever. And it was a masterful play. The Chinese national team, the way it starts is when the race begins, everyone paces themselves and goes slow before slowly picking up speed so they don't burn themselves out right away. And then they push as hard as they can in the final lap. In this race, there's two Chinese nationals. One of them, right at the beginning, breaks protocol and turbo dashes fast as they can around the track. The other ice skaters speed up trying to catch up, and they're probably thinking to themselves, you're going to burn yourself out and lose. You're stupid. The Chinese skate racer laps the whole group and then stays in the back. What does that mean? It means that the Chinese speed skater was in first place, but to anybody who was just racing, they're behind them. They did not realize they had been fully lapped right in the beginning. Here's the master play. Once the whole pack crosses into their, so this is their second to final lap. Here's what happens. The speed skater who is in the back, who jumped the whole ring and lapped them, and then stayed behind on purpose, made them think the whole group was one lap ahead. Why? When the skater who was out lapping everybody crossed onto their final lap, they announce, final lap. Then all of the other speed skaters think, this is my final lap. It's not. Get it? Here's the best part. The strategy was planned out by the other Chinese speed skater on the team. So when all of the speed skaters are rushing around thinking it's their final lap, as soon as they cross the finish line, what do? They stop skating, despite the fact they did not finish the race. The Chinese, the second, so that means first place goes to that speed skater who lapped everybody. Second place went to the other Chinese speed skater who knew what the plan was and then lapped everybody. And China took first and second place. Did they cheat? In the spirit of a race, 100%. By the rules, they did not, which means strategy. It's a crazy story. It was this crazy video. I was like, wow. They tricked the other speed skaters by going all the way around real quick and then staying in the back of the pack. So the group didn't realize this person was actually ahead of them all. Clever. Take a look at 2020. What happens? Donald Trump wins the argument in the spirit of an election. He says, I will be a good president, the economy, bing, bang, boom. And everybody says, yay. And then Trump says, don't forget to go and vote for me. And they go, you got it, Trump. And then Democrats show up at a random person's house, knock on the door and say, you voting? And they go, I don't know. And they're like, sign that piece of paper. And they went, sure, fine, whatever, and hand them the ballot. In the spirit of an election, they cheated. But to the actual rules of an election, they played exactly as they were supposed to, collecting pieces of paper with people's names on them. Republicans didn't get it. So they screamed, rigged! How is it possible? Well, they looked at the rules and they figured out a way to get more votes than you. So at 4 a.m, this jump was predominantly mail-in ballots, which in these states were specifically said that they could not be counted until a certain time. And so Biden jumps up. I think it's fair to say for many Republicans, they were cheated in the election, but it wasn't illegal and it wasn't against the rules. The rules had been set up in advance. Republicans just didn't understand what was happening. You can argue that it violates the spirit of an election and that Trump actually won. And I'd say, sure, in terms of campaigning to people, asking them to vote for you and telling them to go vote, Trump got more votes than any other incumbent president. Yeah, I believe that's correct. And they say, how did Biden get 81 million? Because nobody was voting for Biden. Most of the people were voting against Trump, and the votes that they got that put Biden above Trump came from people who didn't care one way or another. That's what y'all need to plan for. Now, I bring this up, and we'll bring it back to the question. What is the new shadow campaign? Perhaps it is RFK Jr. Really that simple. That for a little while, it looks like RFK is hurting Joe Biden. And then, closer to the election, RFK Jr. starts shifting some of his core positions to target independent voters who lean right, who then say, I don't like Trump, I don't want to vote for Trump, and they choose Kennedy instead. It's hard to know for sure. Trump's base is strong. They're not going to bow out. But Trump needs to win the moderates, and he is. But if the moderates decide Trump and Biden are too old and they're crazy, and they go for RFK Jr., that may pull support from Trump that Trump desperately needs. And Democrats are relying right now on ballot harvesting people who don't care one way or another. Effectively hobbling Donald Trump with the Kennedy platform. Now, I can't tell you for sure because nobody knows for sure. Everybody wants to make their arguments. RFK Jr. launches his campaign talking about Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not sure that people on the right are going to go for that one. So again, we really just don't know. In one poll, we see that with Kennedy getting 12%, Biden is winning. We have another poll where it's even. Kennedy has 8%. It's inconclusive. In this poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies, Trump is up by 2 and Kennedy's only at 7. What does this mean? How is anyone going to tell you Trump is winning by 2 from Ipsos, Reuters, and Kennedy has 8 points? Noise. Garbled noise. So we really don't know. I'm not going to rag on RFK over a parasite eating his brain. That's silly. That's not an argument. That's just mocking somebody because they got hurt. Silly. I will criticize all of them for being old, but I take a look at Donald Trump and I ask this question to all of you. What have you won? I ask this to libertarians. What have you won? Subsequently, what have you lost? And I say this, because I talked to Dave Smith about this, and even he concedes to a certain degree. With Donald Trump, he tried to withdraw from Afghanistan and Syria. That's more than you can say than most other presidents. And we were having a conversation about Trump and his attempts at foreign policy. And Dave was like, it's true, though. Like Trump has done better on foreign policy despite not being great, but he's done better. And that's a tough call because we want Trump to get in and end the wasteful spending on this foreign policy garbage. I say Trump is the best president of my lifetime, despite having ankle weights or concrete strapped to his legs by the deep state. Now they've got no choice. But we'll see. I'm concerned that if Trump gets elected now, he's going to inherit 2 wars that he's not going to be able to stop, and the deep state's satisfied there. Maybe that was the play the whole time. They didn't expect Biden to win twice. They expected to inject a Biden presidency just so they could start the wars that Trump couldn't stop. And then Trump can come back. Now they got their wars. We'll see. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.